Hey everybody, my name is Chris. This is one in a series of videos in which we will walk through the entire process of GA4 account construction, all the way from tracking code placement to dashboard creation. We're doing this project for the Maui Humane Society. This one's going to be interesting and probably pretty helpful. One you're probably going to want to bookmark. It's all about Google Tag Manager and how to place tags in Tag Manager. We're going to do this in a three-part video series, and so this first one's just going to be simple tags, in which we'll walk through just some very simple rudimentary tags for tracking some contact information, some button clicks, etc. Then there will be an intermediary level video, as well as kind of a more advanced one to track some more interesting stuff. All right, more complicated items as well. So let's get into the simple tags, but first let's talk a little bit about Tag Manager. Now there is a previous video in this series that talks about how to place tracking code for GTM and gives you a little bit of background on what Google Tag Manager is. Really, GTM or Google Tag Manager does a couple of things. It acts as a container. Okay, it contains tags, it holds those tags, and it also acts as kind of a messaging service. So when behavior occurs, we can actually filter or send data over to a specific platform like a Google Analytics or Google Ads or LinkedIn Ads or whatever you want to do. Right? So it acts as a container in this way. Typically when we work with different platforms like Analytics or Meta or LinkedIn or any of these different tools, in order for these to work properly, we have to place some tracking code or some script. Every one of these has some tracking or script that go along with it to enable these platforms to work properly. As opposed to placing every single tag for every single platform we have on the website directly, we can just place it in Tag Manager, and then it goes in this bucket or this little container here. And when it's there, all we need instead of a separate tag for every one of those is we need one singular tag for Tag Manager, right? So as long as we've got our Google Tag Manager script or container tag on our site, then we can basically choose to fire different tags for various platforms whenever we want, on every page, on click behavior, on form submissions. We kind of decide what those directions and criteria are. The way that it's like a messaging service is like this. So it kind of listens for specific behaviors on a website or an app. And so it listens for things like clicks or scroll behavior. It listens for form submissions. And in our case, for the Maui Humane Society, it's also going to listen for donation activity. So all these behaviors are important to us, and we want to track them, and we also want to record them in a platform or an analytics platform like GA4. So when these items or when these elements occur, when someone clicks on a link or submits a form or thankfully donates to Maui Humane Society, GTM is going to listen for that behavior and then send data over every time there is a behavior. And so in this way, if you've ever been to a bank, for those who don't do online banking, back in the day, if you're old like me, we actually used to have to go to a bank. Crazy. But there would be kind of like this system, and they still have these in a lot of banks, I believe, but they have this system where you could kind of deliver information through like this pneumatic messaging system or a tube system, right? And so in this way, it's kind of like a messaging system, and Google Tag Manager acts the same way. It listens for specific messages, and then it delivers the tags information to the appropriate recipient, whether it be Google Analytics, Google Ads, Meta, whatever you're working with, okay? And so again, it's a container, but it's also kind of a messaging system. It reads and reacts, okay? So the reason that we need Tag Manager for our purposes when setting up Google Analytics 4 is this. We have some standard events in GA4. These are native to the platform. If you crack open a new GA4 account or property, you will have these events, and you can enable these pretty simply. It's not too hard to track these items. So things like page views, first or new visits, scroll behavior even, clicks to external visits or clicks to external resources, I should say, file downloads. All these are just default. They're turned on when you turn on GA4. However, if you work for a business or a brand or if you're an agency and you have clients, you might want to track some things a little bit more specific to your brand. Okay, so for Maui Humane Society, we're going to track these things. In order to do this, we need to utilize Tag Manager. So again, Tag Manager is going to listen for specific behaviors. So when someone completes a donation or selects a pet to adopt or tries to email the folks in the foster department, whatever it is that they're doing, we want to set up tags that feed this data to GA4 when this particular behavior occurs, or when the behavior that is represented by these tags or events occurs. Okay, so here's how we're going to do this. For GTM, if you are new to GTM, you're in the right place. We are first going to walk through 3 initial steps that if I were you, I would take if you are opening up a new GA4 account, or I'm sorry, a new Google Tag Manager container for the very first time. Whether you are e-commerce, lead generation, nonprofit, whatever it is you're doing, these 3 steps are going to be critical. Okay, so we'll walk through those 3 steps first, and then after we've done that, within this same video, we're going to set up 3 sample tags for Maui Humane Society. Again, there will be subsequent videos in which we do some other tags, more intermediate or advanced tags. Okay, so let's take a look at this first. All right, we have Tag Manager. So this is brand new. There's nothing going on here. It is blank, right? So there are, if I look over here and zoom in, we've got tags. These are the messages that we're going to send to different platforms, whether it be analytics, ads, whatever we're utilizing. Triggers, there's nothing in there either. We're going to set that up to, or set these up to, basically these are instructions. So they are kind of like the sheet music for the music we're making with tags. Okay, they're instructions or criteria that we utilize to say fire this tag when X occurs, when these criteria are met. Okay, variables are little bits of information. They're kind of the building blocks of Google Tag Manager. They're very important. And again, we just started opening this thing up. It's brand new. We have 0 tags. We don't have any triggers going on. We just have a handful of variables. With variables, here's one of the first initial steps I would take. Enable your variables, configure these things. So we have event, page host name, page path, page URL. If we want to track things like click behavior, we might want to know the click URL or the text that someone selects or target or ID. I'm just going to turn all these on. And I would if I were you too. Turn all these on. Now, if we're also going to track form behavior, I might want to know what that form ID is, or maybe the form URL. I'll turn some of that on as well. I think we might need some of this video behavior. Now, video tracks automatically as long as it's a YouTube embed, so I don't need these items here unless I want to track something custom that is not YouTube, that I've got a video player that is not the YouTube player. Maybe it's a Vimeo or a Wisty or something really cool I don't even know about. We're also going to track some scroll behavior as well later on. So I want to just basically turn all these different variables on if I might use them. You'll notice that I'm not turning everything on. I'm just kind of taking what I need to survive at this moment. But at any point, if I say, you know what, I don't actually need form URL, I'm going to turn that off. I can turn it off and it's gone. Okay, I do need it though, so I'm going to turn it back on. Okay, so the other thing we're going to want to do here is we've got built-in variables. You can enable them or configure those. Make sure they're ready at your disposal. That's step 1. Step 2 is this. Let's create a custom variable that we will utilize to denote what our GA4 web stream ID is, or what our unique ID is for GA4. How do I find that? What do I do? Let's go to GA4. Here I am in the Maui Humane Society GA4 account. I'm going to go to the admin section, and a lot of this will make sense as we go, but we'll go to the data stream. And if you've got a data stream going, and this was actually discussed in a previous video, so if you're confused about what these settings are and which settings to update, go back and check that one out. Now if I open this up here, here's my Maui Humane Society website web stream. I've got this measurement ID right here. This will be important. I want to create a variable right now in GA4 because every tag that I create that's going to send data to GA4 from Tag Manager will need to reference this ID, right? So why don't I just create a variable right now? I'm going to call it the GA4 web stream ID. And if we want just to keep our stuff organized, we can even put it in a folder. Let's say we've got a GA4 folder, that might come handy later. And if I open this up here, you see the little Lego icon. These are literally the building blocks of GTM, these variables. I will look, we've got all these different variables. Some of these will come into play in the intermediate and advanced sessions here. I'm going to use a constant. So a constant is just a value that's not going to change. That's my ID. I will utilize this, and this will save me time later on because this will need to be present at every single tag I want to create. And as we get ahead of ourselves here, there's going to be a few tags that we're going to want to create. I'll come back to this document in a second. But every single one of those line items you just saw in this document will need a specific tag associated with it. And every single tag will have to reference this ID. Why not just make it a constant so I don't have to remember it or write it down every time? Just make it a constant, and I'll show you how that comes into play. So there's step 2 of the 3 initial steps. The second, or the third, I should say, step is this. And you might choose to do this. It's always helpful to me, so I would do it, and it doesn't hurt anything. But I'm actually going to create a couple of triggers here, and we're going to call this all clicks. Okay, and so I'm going to, again, click on my trigger box here, and look at all these different triggers I've got. I've got page view triggers, page view, window loaded, click triggers. We might use the form submission trigger later on. There's the YouTube video trigger. There's some custom event triggers. The one we want right now is just all elements. Now later on, I will probably want to determine specifically what kind of click I want, whether the text equals this or the URL equals that. Right now, I'm just going to turn them all on. Okay, I'm not going to tie this to a tag, but enabling this will help me when I'm testing and kind of determining what the criteria should be when I'm designing my tags and triggers. So just turn that on. And the other one I would turn on too while we're here is let's add all links. Again, this will make sense a little bit later when we're testing this thing out. So the links is going to be just links. So the distinction there is all clicks is like you click on anything, this trigger is going to fire. This just links will just fire on links. Okay, we're going to keep that all links. I'm not going to tie this to a tag. It's only here for testing purposes. If I want to, I can put it in my GA4 folder. I don't think I put my all clicks trigger in a folder. So what I'm going to do here is check that one and pop it in a folder. There's multiple ways to get things done within GA or within Google Tag Manager. Okay, so there's the 3 initial steps. We enabled some variables. We configured those. We turned them on. They're now at our disposal. There's more musical notes that we can write. We created some sheet music, a little bit of sheet music, and we also designated our GA4 web stream ID. That will come in handy later. Trust me when I tell you. All right, now let's move on here. It's time to create 3 simple tags. These are just basic, all right? So if you've done GTM before, these might be a total bore to you. If you've never done it before, keep watching. Here we go. So in order to do this properly, we must write this down first. So the step we want to take first is to document what it is that we're trying to measure, okay? And that's going to be very important because if we don't write it down, it doesn't exist. For this particular project, and you can access this Google Sheet that I'll show you, and I kind of showed it to you earlier. You can access this at this URL right here, okay? It will be locked down, okay? You won't be able to edit it because it doesn't belong to you, but you can at least use it as an example, okay? For you, I've got a template. So you can access this document right here, which will take you to another Google Sheet that is a blank template for all this documentation that I'm showing you in these videos that you can use if you're an agency. Go crazy if you're an in-house analytics person. Go nuts, right? But the point here is if we do not write it down, it does not exist. Let's take a look. In a previous video, we talked a little bit about how we might want to first write down what it is we want to track, okay? And so when I say we, I mean myself and the Maui Humane Society, we sat down and wrote down this wish list of all of these different behaviors we want to track, from visitor submits the donate form to visitor clicks to access share link for adopt a pet, and on down the list. This wish list then becomes this document right here. I'm going to zoom out so we can see this a little bit better, okay? So what we've got here are tables that document the specific event we're going to track, a description of that event, which is just copied and pasted from our wish list, a tag reference, and then parameters. Okay, so parameters, let's zoom in a little bit on those for a second so we know how to read this. The metaphor we make often is if events are like cupcakes or cakes, parameters are decorations. So here's like sprinkles and here's frosting, okay? So anytime someone clicks on a nav header button. I want to know what page they were on and what exactly they clicked, okay? If someone, let's see, if someone wants to share a pet from the adoption page on Facebook, I want to know what species of pet that was. Was it a dog, cat, a ferret, whatever? What the pet's unique ID was, and the fact that we're sharing it on Facebook versus Twitter. So this will all make sense a little bit in the advance. So these color codes right here, we're going to do the green ones on this one. The intermediate session will do the yellow ones, and then the more advanced GTM video that you can check out, that's going to be the red guys. Okay. Now, again, if we don't write it down, it doesn't exist. So we've got tags. We've got a description of what we're tracking. Here's our events. Here's our parameters. I've kind of put them in different categories, like here's our wayfinding events, here's our homepage events, and then we also have triggers, okay? So I kind of did the homework in advance so that the process of actually putting these in Google Tag Manager will be a breeze. And I would recommend you do the same thing. Write it down first, because if you've got your recipe, then it's easy to cook in GTM, okay? So here's how we're gonna do this. I'm going to first prepare this content accordion event. What are we tracking here? This is visitor clicks to expand content accordions. Okay, well, let's check it out. So here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to take my tag manager and preview the website. When I hit preview right here, and hopefully to have preview access, you do need edit access to your GTM, just FYI. And I'm going to hit connect right here. And what it's going to do is I just told it what site I want to preview, and it opens up two browser tabs. One is this tag assistant, and then the other is the actual live site. Now this little bug right here is not part of the Maui Humane Society website. It's just a little tag assistant bug to let me know that I'm previewing this. And then the tag assistant here is showing me what's going on behind the scenes. So at this point, the window has loaded, right? So there's little steps in which all the images and text and script are all loaded up, and then when it's finally loaded, I've got that here. Now check this out. I'm gonna click something on this site 3 times. I'm just gonna click a random space here. Listen for the clicks. There's gonna be 3 of them. Okay, there they are right there. Now I didn't click on anything, but the reason these showed up, to back it up a little bit, is because we created a trigger back here called all clicks, right? And so then anytime someone clicks on anything, I can see what they looked at, and I can see, all right, great. What was the page that they were on? There's all these variables. Okay, what page path was it? What click text was it? I didn't click anything. Well, actually, looks like I did something there, and so on. So you can kind of see all the little variables that are attached to every single behavior that's going on. So it's kind of cool, in my opinion, to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes. All right, so the first one, again, we want to look at is content accordion. All right, so let's see what this looks like. Let me find an accordion. I think there's probably one on the, let's go to the Foster page. Oh, here we go. Here's some accordions. So when I select these here, these open up. So the Maui Humane Society wants to track this just as well as a number of other navigation elements, just to determine how often these content accordions are actually utilized. And when we track these, we will also gather the click text, right? So let's zoom in there a little bit so you can see that. But we're going to see what page that people are on, the page headline, and then the link text. So we can see which of these accordions are most popular. So imagine, if you will, the ability to sort by, okay, I want to see all the different content accordions on the Foster program page. Which of them is most popular? Do I need to reorder these? Are there some that are getting all the love? Are there some that are getting no love at all? How do I need to organize this? So we'll never make a decision about that type of UX or the design. We don't necessarily need to track this, but the folks at Maui Humane Society said, yeah, I want to see what's the most popular content. And this particular event will track on every single page where there's a content accordion. Okay, so as I click these here, in the background, I've got all these clicks, okay? And on these clicks, I can see a little class. Click class, ETPB toggle title. All right, that's something. So I can probably utilize that. Oh, look at that. Click text. MHS provides the food. Great. All right, let's try another one just to test it out. I'm going to click on how does the foster care end? Clicked on it. Then we've got another one. That's the one I just clicked, right? So it looks like if I utilize this class right here, which is consistent for every one that I select, I can probably utilize this as my trigger criteria, okay? And so this is a click trigger, right? And so over here in my documentation, the trigger type is click. There it is right there. And the trigger detail is click class equals ETPB toggle. All right, great. Let's set this up. So the first thing I'm going to do is you can go straight away and actually create a tag. I tend to create triggers first. Okay, so I'm going to create my trigger and we're going to call it event content accordion. Here I'm going to go a little bit fast so I don't take up too much of your time, but feel free to rewind if you need to. Put it in my GA4 folder. Here's where I can select my detail. And then again, it wasn't link clicks, it was just a click, right? So back here, we saw some link clicks when I went over to the Foster page, but all these content accordions are just straight up clicks. There we go. So all clicks, no, not all clicks. Some clicks in which the click class, let's look at our trigger detail, equals or contains. I'm going to say contains, I think, just in case. Let's change that up. Just in case there's another class that occurs in there, and we can pop that in. Click class contains, there she is, okay. Now, it's time to do a tag. Let's create a tag. So I've got my trigger, I'm gonna create a new tag. Here's the new tag. And again, if you've got this written down, this part's easy because it's just go back and forth between your documentation. And now we're going to select a tag type. Now, if you select this, there are too many tag types to count. It's insane. Like, so Google has all these different partnerships with all these different tools. Pinterest, I think you probably see some LinkedIn stuff in there. I think there's like a Crazy Egg, if you've ever utilized that. There's Hotjar. So some of these tools you might recognize. Because we're doing Google Analytics, we're going to choose the Google Analytics event tag. There she is right there. Now remember, I could put my measurement ID right here. The reason I need my measurement ID is because I need to tell Google Tag Manager, hey, when you see this behavior occur, send it over here, feed it to this. Now I could copy this and paste it and put it right in there. But you remember, I actually created a variable called GA4 measurement ID. So I don't need to remember it. I can just, that's why I want to create this constant right here. So if you remember 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, this is the reason I create this constant. It's so much easier. Now, the event name, what do I want to call that? Well, I think I probably had some kind of naming convention here earlier. So content underscore accordion. I would typically use underscores and lowercase. The reason for that is that the events that Google automatically tracks are all lowercase and underscores, and I'm completely OCD, and so if I had like capital letters and spaces in between words in my event naming convention, I'd go absolutely crazy, so I'm not going to do that. We're just going to put content accordion in, and now we want to decorate this cake with some sprinkles and frosting. Okay, so we said from our documentation, always reference the doc, page headline and link text. All right, let's go grab those. So here's event parameters. We'll add a couple, and I believe it was page headline and then link text. Why do we want these? Because we want to know what page this occurred on and what they actually selected. Did they choose this or that? And what page were they on, right? And so here you can go grab the variable by selecting your page headline. There she is. Or you can do this. You can just start to hit open brace, and start to type, and it'll give you some options there. So you've got a couple different ways you can go get that. Now, page headline, FYI, is not a it's not a variable that comes native to GTM. I had to create that. In the next video, I'll show you how I did that. It's going to take a little bit of custom JavaScript, which might sound like a 4-letter word to you, but suffice to say we can do it. What it's essentially doing is it's looking for the H1 tag on this page. If there's not an H1 tag, it's going to default to the page title. Okay, so that will help me know what page this happened on or occurred on. Now you might ask yourself, well, there's probably a lot of other things you want to track here, like what device they were on, what source they utilized, what page they were on before, UTM parameters, where they're located in the world. Are they in Hawaii? Are they in beautiful Mesa, Arizona? Where are they at, right? The reason I'm only grabbing these two here is because for every single event, these parameters are included. Page location, page location is the URL, by the way. Page title, page refer, the page they're on previously. Language, are we talking English, Spanish, French, whatever. Screen resolution, UTM parameters, so source, medium, campaign. All of this is coming along for the ride for all the events, those that are native to the platform and those custom that we are building, just like Content Accordion, okay? So now we don't want to add our trigger. The reason I created my trigger earlier is so I can just go grab it. There she is right there. And I'm thinking this is looking good. I'm in my GA4 folder. So there's a few steps here, right? And so if you follow that process, you can create your own tags. This is a really simple one because we just created it. Let's preview it again. Now, if I went back here and started looking for Content Accordion, it wouldn't be there because I've got to kind of start over. So I'm going to kill this window here. I'm going to go preview. And let's preview the homepage once more, just to make sure this worked properly. Little slow. There we go. And I think we are on what, the foster page was where the accordions are. Now there's accordions all over the place. But if I select who can be a foster parent, there's a click right there. Hey, hey. Page headline, foster program, link text, who can be a foster parent. Sweet, let's do another one just to be sure. What kinds of animals need foster care? I don't know, let's find out. Guinea pigs. Here's another one. Feels good. All right, let's do another one. So the next one we're gonna do is foster orientation. Well, we're on the foster page, so let's just knock this one out. So this is visitor clicks to find an online foster orientation. Let's look at this page again. And there it is. Attend an online foster orientation. So again, we preview to test to see what criteria load up so we can design our tags and triggers. So let's just give this a shot, see what happens. There's not going to be a tag that fires, we know. And I'm going to hold down Command. I'm on a Mac or Control, I think, on a Windows machine, or a PC, I should say. But if I hold down Command, it's going to open up in another window. Now this opens up a Google form. I can't track this because, ironically, despite the fact that this is a Google product, I don't think I can get Google Tag Manager on this thing. So all I can do to this point is just measure, did they click on this button or not? That shows intent. Good enough, I suppose. If I can track this form, I will. But for right now, all we're going to do is we're going to track clicks on this button to open the form. All right. So on that one, you'll notice there was a link click. Okay, so that's going to change our trigger. So far, we've done clicks. Now we're doing link clicks. No tags were fired. But let's take a look at our variables. And this is kind of the investigative journalism part of this. And what we're really looking for is probably click URL. So when someone clicks that URL right there to access the online foster orientation form, we can track this. So let's take a look at our trigger. And yeah, it's a link click. Click URL contains blah, whatever that is. Let's go over here. Again, I prefer to do triggers first. So we're going to crack open a new trigger. We are going to name this foster orientation. Now you'll note here it's labeled GA4. This is just personal preference. Here it's labeled GA4 event foster orientation. The reason I'm not naming the trigger that, it's just event, is because I might want to utilize this trigger for some other tag, like maybe for ads or for LinkedIn or for the Pinterest campaign or whatever it is, right? So because this trigger can be utilized for a number of different tags, I'm not calling this GA4 $sign trigger. It's an event trigger. Okay. Now again, if I click here, I'm looking for not just any click, but a link click. Not all link clicks, just some in which the click URL contains. And there's different operators in here. I'm just going to use contains because it's a little bit more forgiving than equals. So if it was equals, it would have to be that exactly. That's good enough. I'm guessing that ID is very, very specific to this Foster orientation form. But if you look at the operators, we've got equals, starts with, ends with, there's all kinds, doesn't contain. These might come into play in some of the more advanced tracking. Okay, we've got, put it in our folder. Now we're going to do our tag. Again, I'm going to go a little bit faster. Actually, here's a little tip. If you have created an event already, or a tag already, just like we did here, you could go from scratch and start a new tag and go through that whole process, or you could do this. Let's open this guy up. We've already placed page headline, link text as our parameters. We're gonna use those again. There they are. So yeah, let's just copy this puppy and not waste too much time. Just change the labels. Change the event, obviously. And then we're gonna change the trigger. Okay, we're on our way. Look at us. And it's already in the folder. Great. Before I preview this again, let's do one more. Let's get it configured and we can test a couple all at once. So the other green one that we were going to look at as a basic was contact email. So this is going to be a popular one that pretty much everybody's going to want to do. What this is going to allow you to do is measure anytime someone clicks on an email address, right? So it's pretty simple. If we look at this code, we're going to look at code, people. Stand back. You can see there's an anchor, and then the href is what we're actually mailing. Every email link that you got is going to have this little mail to right in there. And oh, by the way, every telephone that you've got is going to have TEL : right in there. Okay, so let's just knock out this email one right now. And I think what we're going to want to do, trigger first, that's just my preference, is, what do we say? I always copy and paste because it's faster, less prone to mistakes when we just copy and paste. So this is a link click. I'm going a little fast. Click URL contains mail to, which is going to be the case for every single email click you have on the website. Okay. And again, if this were phone, we could go TEL, right? But it's not. It's email. All right. Place this in our folder. We're good over here. I will actually create a new tag so you can kind of see that process again. So I take a little bit more time here. I'm going to go kind of fast. Let's go grab our trigger right away, contact email. And once you kind of get in the groove, this goes fast. A couple parameters for us. We're doing page headline again. Is that all we wanted there? Let's double check. Yep, always check our work. Beauty. Okay. In our GA4 folder. And that looks good, I think. Here we go. So let's go preview. Actually, let's copy this real quick. We're going to start over our preview. Anytime we add something new, start preview over again. Just start from scratch, just to make sure you got everything in there that you want to look at. And as opposed to going to the home page, I'm going to go right to the Foster page. We can connect. And we're going to open it up. Again, it's taking its sweet time, but that's all right. Here we are. I'm going to hold down Command to open this up. We should see a link click, number 7. Let's check our couple of accordions there. There's some clicks there. Sure. Absolutely. Yep, why not? And then let's do our email. It's going to open an email for us. We don't want to see that. It did the email. That's great. Let's check our tag. And what email did we click? Info at. So Maui Humane Society has donate at, foster at, adopt at, whatever, volunteer at. It's also going to info at. So we're going to be able to tell which of these email addresses is most popular and what page people are clicking on them from, right? So that's going to be helpful. So all of these parameters here are really just sortable elements. The decorations, the sprinkles and frosting, they're sortable elements. So imagine creating a report. I want to see how many people clicked on to contact us via email. And oh, by the way, who are they trying to email? Was it the donate folks, the foster folks, or the volunteer folks? We can find out. Or was it the info at folks? All right. So there we go. Okay, so at this point, I've got some in here and I can publish. I feel good about these. I'm ready to go. And I can submit this. All right. So when I submit this, you're going to notice that I've got 35 changes. Wow, that's a lot. Why is there so many changes? Well, you remember that I enabled some variables. There's some other triggers in here that we didn't talk about, but I've got a few workspace changes in here, okay, and I want to publish them. So when it is time to publish, make sure that you test first and everything looks good, and then you can hit submit. Every time we publish, we're going to go GA4 event, basic event tutorial, publish. Just give it a name, because every time you submit a change or publish a version, you will have a record of all these versions right here. So here's when I did the web stream initial publish, there was an empty container. And if you need to, let's say we make a mistake, God forbid, if we make a mistake, we can go back to an original version over time. So we can kind of reverse course and kind of fix our errors and revert to an older version. Okay, that's it for the basics. All right. All right. Thank you very much for your attention. I realize this is a little bit longer one. Hopefully this was helpful for you. It would be helpful for me if you did find this one helpful. It would be helpful for me if you would consider donating to MauiHumaneSociety.org. The need is always great, and your participation and donations are always appreciated. Thanks very much. Next time we're going to do the intermediate tags. See you then.